5 resources to help you be the local market expert.
Today on the Wandering But Not Lost podcast.
This is the Wandering But Not Lost WBNL podcast, where real estate and reality meet. And now your hosts, Jan O'Brien and Matt Emerson.
Well, welcome to the Wandering But Not Lost podcast, where real estate and reality meet. This is episode 201. You can find all of our show notes over at WBNLpodcast.com. Jan O'Brien, I like how you are always looking for a way to help strengthen the fact that you're the local market expert. Pretty cool.
Well, why I'm excited to share these 5 resources, I'm sure you've heard of a couple of them. We certainly talked about it on the podcast, but these are 5 things I'm using every single day as I actually strengthen my presence in both markets that I'm working in. And I'm coming to you today. I'm in same time zone as Matt. I'm in Vegas, working with the team here in Vegas. I'm here for a few weeks, and I really wanted to get more up to speed with this market. It's really difficult. One of the things I'm learning, it is difficult to stay on top of both markets. It takes a commitment of spending some time, and so this is the way I do it, because some of the things I'm going to share with you help on a housing market nationally, so you know what's happening. Then you just have to know what's happening in your local market, and then you're able to. The strength of why I want to share this today is that it gives you the confidence to know what's happening nationally and in your market, not just for real estate, but what's happening locally. You know, what kind of things, which then helps you when you're talking to people. And these are the reasons to do all this, right? To be that local market expert. But honestly, where the biggest thing is for us is coming up with content to share on social media consistently, because we're really into video. So we're working on short and long form videos. So YouTube, long form videos, a little bit more production, but we're focusing on TikTok and Instagram Reels right now. And you need to have a variety of content, so it's just not boring, housing stats, but being able to engage with people. So that's what I want to share today. And it's because I'm using it every day, and I'm re-engaged with some of them I've used all along, but a couple new sites I'm using to help me stay on top of what's happening. So we want to share it today on the podcast.
It's awesome. Good stuff.
All right. So we're ready to dive in and do it?
Yep.
All right. So the first one, if you listen to us, you're going to know my absolute favorite of all time thing to subscribe to is Keeping Current Matters, for a couple reasons. And I have it right now if you're watching the video. And if you go to our show notes, it's episode 201, or you find us on YouTube, and you can see what I'm sharing, but I'm just going to talk about it if you're listening. It's Keeping Current Matters. And this is a daily one where I can get content for a blog posts. A lot of times I find an interesting article that I might talk about for a TikTok or a short or reel for YouTube, or, we put them on all the sites, but there might be something interesting to be able to use to then have a conversation about. So instead of trying to figure out what am I going to put up, you're going to look at these different things I'm sharing with you today. So Keeping Current Matters has daily blog posts 5 days a week. They have infographics that you can use. I use those all the time. And then I'm looking at right now and scrolling through the monthly market update. And the monthly market update always comes with, first of all, a 15-minute video to help you understand what's in the update and tells you what to say to your clients so you can do your own market report. But then they share all the slides. So I go through, I don't use all the slides. I pick and choose the ones I want. And I'll use some of these slides in some of my shorts that I'm doing on TikTok or wherever. And then obviously I put them in my monthly market update. So number one resource, just to have a broad stroke view with actual tools, graphics, slides that you can use in your newsletters and on your social, is in Keeping Current Matters. And we have a link that if you use we're an affiliate, and we share the good word on this, and they give us a free month if somebody signs up. And it's we'll put the link in the show notes, right, Matt? Or it's over on YouTube too.
Yep, it'll be in both places. You know what, Jan? Keeping Current Matters is an awesome resource. And just a little pro tip here: if you're doing this and using this in your marketing, if you're going to use a lot of these graphs and any of the tools in Keeping Current Matters in your presentations, if you're doing a market update, if you are a Canva user, which we also have a link to in the show notes, so for you to sign up. if these colors don't match your brand colors, you can actually switch in camera. There's a lot of ways you can actually turn these into, if it's not your actual brand colors, something very close to what your brand is as well. So you can really take these and make them look more like what your brand actually is as you're building your presentations out. So just one more thing, you know, that you can work on, but you can really customize these babies to look like they are your freaking, you know, slides. So FYI.
Yeah, there's just so much. There's you know, articles, like I'm looking at, you know, what you can expect from the spring housing market. Wow, that is like a perfect article to just go do a short video on and post on whatever your flavor of social media is. Now we choose video, so our main platforms are YouTube for long form and TikTok for short, but we can repurpose the videos we do on TikTok to move to Reels and to put select ones on YouTube Shorts, right? Because that's what it's all at. But you get the content. They always have 1, 2, 3 points to talk about. Like right now, it's just saying mortgage rates are going to climb. I'm actually going to use this because this is actually, I might use this exact one today for a TikTok because this is what's happening. Mortgage rates are climbing. What does that mean? And then you put your spin on it. Housing inventory is going to increase. Well, I hope that's true, but we have to look into this to say why. It's different. And where. And the general consensus is home prices are going to still rise because as we go through the spring market, there's still, even though interest rates are rising, there's a lot of people going, oh gosh, I better go buy before they go higher. And, you know, there's some people waiting on the sidelines. So there's a mixed bag of opinions right now on the market. So,
but at the end of the day, there's years of pent up demand right now. I mean, come on.
Yeah, and then you can, and so like the impact, this is a great one. I've done one on the impact of rising rates on home prices. This is just a graph that says if you buy, you know, at a certain interest rate, how much less home can you buy, or how much more is your payment going to be if you're sticking to a 450 sales price? So lots of great content just in that one place. Okay. Next, to go with that, now you've got to mix the national statement, because what's happening nationally, I'll give you an example. The 2 markets that I'm working in, so they'll say things like in the national stats will say, I think for last month, the average home price, the median home price appreciation across the country was about 18%. Well, in Florida and in Vegas, it was 25%. Okay, so that's awesome, because how do you find out what it is for you locally? You have to know the stats for your area. How do you do that? Well, you go to your local association first and foremost. So I'm looking at Las Vegas Realtors. I can come in here and every MLS has stats, market stats. And here in Vegas, Showing Time is what's running the stats. So you can now come in, and then they do a great job at Las Vegas Realtors, so they do it in Florida for me too, putting out a monthly report that tells you the stats. You don't have to go pull it together if you don't need to. You just get the stats and report on it, right?
Right.
So I have endless access to stats. You can get bogged down with it. So I have it all set up to go get the things I want to get. If I want to talk about a city within the area that I'm working, I can do that over here. If I want to talk about a subdivision that I farm, I can talk about that. And again, use it across all these platforms, use it in your newsletters, use it in your day-to-day conversations with people. This is how you become the local market expert. You have to be a student. So national and then go local. Okay, so you go local, so you can talk about, nationally it's about 18%, but here in Las Vegas last month, our median, the median sales price nationally was X. Here in Vegas, it was 450 last month. You do that if you study this stuff, right? So I love going local after, the Keeping Current Matters. Now I want to show you 2 sites that I think are well worth, you don't have to necessarily go to the upgrade. I did. Housing Wire, I've been a fan of Housing Wire forever. And in the last month, I have been subscribed to the free version. And then they do, like most places now, media online. It's like, we're going to give you some content. But if you really want the good, deep content, you have to pay for the plus.
Of course.
Okay. So now it's HW Plus, and I did do that, and it's worth it because there is so much great content on here for housing and mortgage, and you get really some great insight, and you can see some of it says H was. So it just gives you more things, and it's kind of like a cool thing to do for socialists to be able to go, here's this article. Let me talk to you about what I think about this article, or what does that mean to us? That's what you need to do. You don't just like read an article, or you might actually pull a quote out of an article and then talk about it. And what does that mean to you? So I love Housing Wire, and then Housing Wire will also maybe, no, they just have endless stuff that you can talk about. So the next national site that I actually downloaded as an app on my phone, there's no upgrade to this. I just literally, it's called Mortgage News Daily. So Mortgage News Daily, I recommend just subscribing. Go there and subscribe. Like right here, it says subscribe. Get the email coming to you. You can catch the headlines in your email box, so that way you don't have to think about going to the website. That's what I do. It all comes to my email. I look at that for 5 minutes in the morning, see if there's anything of a headline, and then I delete these emails, okay? Because your emails will start backing up, Matt, in your email inbox, and then you know that if you just scan it and always have the latest one, because as soon as you go to the online version of the site, you'll have all the other articles as well. They'll all be right there, right? So, but what's great about this app on your phone is you can just open it up on Mortgage News Daily. You can literally see the interest rates and how they're fluctuating, and they report them from 3 different sites. And it shows up. I don't think you can really see this on my phone, but it shows up really easy to read here on the phone. And then for me doing shorts, I can grab a screenshot of that on my phone and use that as a backdrop when I'm talking about, well, the interest rates are, that's scary. This blended version is 4.95. Get out of here, man. Jeez, they're fluctuating. Just last week, they were 4.42.
Right.
And they do a survey. So you get interest rates, people can go online and go, yeah, but I can see 4%. And so this is where you have to be on top of this, because you have to read the details. Are they putting a half a point in there, or what are they doing to make it be that interest rate? And mortgage companies are definitely competing to try to get interest rates the lowest. Yep. They have to make money. So they're not, but they're trying to see if they can get somebody else's business, right? By offering a little lower. So they're cutting into their profits, or maybe they're adding in, you have to pay to get that rate, right? But anyway, what I do love about this site is not only can you download this app and get all the stories and so forth, and it's very useful for doing shorts, you get tons of articles, not just about mortgage, okay? And then if you go to the homepage, or it's maybe the news page, let me go to that and I'll just tell you. You'll get the headlines, and then they'll do around the web. This is the best part of this site. So it's Mortgage News. So it's talking about mortgage. It's talking about things that are impacting mortgage and housing and real estate. But then you'll come to the bottom and you'll see here's an article from the Wall Street Journal, and they pull together all the best content that's impacting the housing and mortgage industry right at the bottom of the homepage. This is where I also find some great content that's not just mortgage. So obviously mortgage lenders are going to like this site, but realtors, you need to see this site. And it's instead of going to 5 other sites, I'm a fan of Calculated Risk Blog. This is an economist, and especially these sites have been around. I discovered these sites back in the foreclosure market years ago. And now they're all here for me just to catch the most important stuff. CNBC also is a good one. So you get the best handpicked content, and then you can find content that you need to know about, or you feel like you need to know about. All right, so that's basically, just to recap, we're talking nationally, keeping current matters for all that great content. Then you back that up with your local stats and trends and housing graphics and so forth. And then I just shared Housing Wire and Mortgage News Daily. If you just use those 2 sites, you'll have everything you need on top of headlines. Now, you can also go to realtor.com and Inman, and I do look at realtor.com, or I'll look at Florida Realtors does send some good stuff out. Your local association may send you something, but generally it's pulling from one of these national sites. So you could add that to the fray as well. But the last thing that I wanted to share about how important it is to subscribe to your local town or city newspaper, especially if you're doing social content. You want to be able to talk not just about what's happening. You want to see what the local paper is doing, reporting on housing anyway, right? Because people are reading that. And then you want to be able to come in here and maybe find some other interesting content that you could also speak to. Maybe it's a controversial issue that's happening in your area, or, maybe there's something about a cool event or something that's happening. You'll find it in your local newspaper. So not only I'm looking at the Review Journal here in Nevada. I look at the Tampa Bay Times in Florida, But I also like looking at some of the local business magazines. Here in Vegas, it's like Las Vegas Business, but you can find a lot of those things. There's basically two newspapers in Las Vegas, the Sun and Review Journal, and they have offshoot papers, local neighborhood papers and stuff, and you can find it all on one site generally. So those are the things I'm looking. I'm not spending hours on this. I know I'm spending time talking about it. I literally go into my inbox every morning and scour the headlines. I open it up, the recap, just like Matt sends out a recap of what we talked about. I scan the recap and I go, is there anything here that's interesting? And I delete it. If it is, I'll keep it, or I'll open up the site and go find the article, read the article, and realize, A, I'm doing it for my own knowledge. B, how can I put this onto social today? Okay.
Yeah, it's really great, having go-to sources like this, because when you're actually referencing your sources when you're doing a video, when you're talking to your clients, it also kind of boosts your credibility as well, because they're things that people have heard about before for the most part. So they know you're not just pulling shit out of the air, right? Or stuff.
Yeah, you're referencing your piece, especially if you are using it on social and you're like, here's this article from the local Review Journal, and it's talking about this, or did you know? Like I just did something recently about the stadium here, the Legion Stadium, and I mean, first of all, I'm learning things that I wasn't really aware of, and I wasn't always consuming the news, consuming the local business stuff that impacts until recently, last couple of years when I've really gotten back into real estate, and I really do believe into real estate in the day-to-day, helping buyers and sellers, but I really cannot underestimate. I want to share with you that importance, because 30 years in the business, and I can't say I wasn't a complete student of the local market.
Right.
I did what everybody does. Yeah, you generally know what's going on, but I never really took the deep dive, and I'm doing that now, and I feel like it just helps me so much. How I learned all this is going to the market that I never knew anything about, coming from a market I know. But here's the interesting thing. I do know the Vegas market, but now I feel like I know it even better, because I went from general quotes of stats to, no, I can really talk about the difference between this area of town and that area of town, just simply because I do one thing, a market update every month.
Yep.
And that market update for Vegas has gone from general Las Vegas stats to here's the median price and what's happening compared to this area of town and this little, outside community. And it's important because when you're talking to people, you can say, well, if you're looking for the, where's the most affordable housing, I'm going to show you where that is.
Right.
And it's
it's interesting. You touched on this right at the very beginning, but I think it's really so important to bring it back around to it again. Is when people get real estate stats, often they're getting national stats, whether they know they're getting that or not, and they don't really know what's happening in the local market unless they really are studying it because they're ready to jump in and do something. So you being able to focus them on what's really going on in their area and pointing them in the direction that they want to be going is huge. And most realtors don't do it. They just don't.
And so anyway, just wanted to, share that over in the show notes. We'll have the links to all those sites. If you're not already subscribing, most of that is free with the exception of keeping current matters. You can even get a little free content from them, but it's worth the $29 or so. It is.
Plus, we're all used to plussing things now. It's like, get the plus.
Exactly. Plus. You don't even need that in a way. And you can get everything else is from your local newspaper. If you could go pick up the local newspaper and read it if you didn't want to pay the online subscription, I guess, but pay the couple bucks. But by the time you pay for a couple bucks, you might as well just get the online edition, right? All right, Matt,
I love it. Hey, so what do we got coming up in the weeks ahead? We have a good
listen,
switch gears a little bit.
We want to get into, for at least the next, and we're going to be podcasting live. Posting up a podcast to the podcast channels every 2 weeks now, but we're going to break the content down for our YouTube channel. So there's always something to look at over on YouTube. But I want to do a series, Matt, on go back to getting a lot of inquiries on building teams again. Having a lot of people reach out to us. They're purchasing our team builder program, or they're reaching out and wanting to have a consult and talk about it. And I've been doing a lot of that in the last month and really refocusing myself on the team here and what it takes to build a team from scratch in Florida. I feel like we should talk a little bit about this. So what we're going to do a little differently is we're going to cover a couple topics in each of our podcasts that will build on itself over the course of, I would imagine, at least three podcast sessions. So maybe over the next, how many weeks is that? 6 weeks or something?
Yeah, next month and a half.
Yeah, so next month and a half, we're going to get into that, and I want to kind of update my, our content that's in our training is spot on. I just reviewed it all, and there's only a few things that I would add to it now, which is what we're looking at doing, and it's how we deal with leads and frankly, what's different in social. That's really the only. Everything else is solid concepts of what you have to do. But we want to talk about everything about: should you build a team? Why would you do it? Are you clear about it? What kind of a team? There's so many variations. How do you structure a team? These are the questions I get. Structure a team. What do you pay people? How do you set this all up? To how do you recruit the right people and find, this is all the struggles that people have. And it's all fresh in my mind because I've talked to 3 people in the last week and a half that are either starting or already have a team. And these are all the same common things. So we're going to address them on the podcast and update it from real live about things we're doing. The reality, I'm in a unique position where I have a team that we're going to add a few more people to in Vegas, but I'm not ready to do that in Florida because I'm the classic, don't build a team until you have everything in place, which is something you're going to hear from me. What does that look like? And what have I been doing? Now, it could be that I look for somebody that can be a person to refer business to as I'm going back and forth, because that's what I want to do. I want to be able to work in both markets, but you have to have somebody to help you if you're going to really work in more than one market. So we'll talk about that. How can you do an expansion team? How can you have locations more than one area? It takes a lot of work to do that, and it takes.
Hey, Jen, you might know the answer to this. I was thinking about this the other day when we were talking about teams and how we have been having more inquiries about teams over the last few weeks and months or so. Have you been keeping track on how are there? What's the stat of new agents getting into the business? Because I'm curious to know, with the market being as crazy it is right now, and then because it kind of flatlined a little bit during COVID, right? As far as, the agent population growing, I'm just wondering where we are, because that's an opportunity if you're going to be a team leader, right? Depending on what kind of team you're going to build.
My feeling, Matt, and I haven't looked at the numbers in the last 6 months, but right post, as we're sort of coming out of lockdown COVID last year, there was a huge resurgence of people in the schools. And I think it has to do with this economy, this new gig economy / remote work. I think there's a ton of people getting into real estate business.
I would agree.
They want to be able to not have the 9-to-5 grind. They want to be in control of their destiny. But of course, the reality is, which we could talk about for sure on a podcast, is and we will cover it when I talk through should you hire a new person or not, because I don't care how many people get in the business, there's only going to be a percentage who are willing to do what it takes to work commission sales, because it is not easy. No. And people who leave a job that says you make X money and you get this much money when you do these tasks and you work 9 to 5, but they're not happy with that, right? And then, so the entrepreneur is going to figure it out. The person who has the drive is going to figure it out. And then a few others are going to do it if they have the support of the right place and a team. I really do think it's important to maybe look at a team, but you have to be on a team, if you're listening and you're new, that is ready to handle a new person, because not everybody is, for sure. Most aren't. It's very unique to have a team of new people.
We happen to know somebody that has done that very, very well.
Absolutely.
So it can be done, but you have to be prepared for what that takes.
And
a revolving door of agents, you have to be prepared.
He knows those numbers. He can have the best training in place and hire great people, but only a certain percentage, and it's less than half, are going to stick with it.
But it is a resource that probably can be widely tapped over the next few years too, because everyone that gets into real estate thinks it's going to be, making $1 million. But
we'll cover it, because a team is not 100 people on your team. It's not even 10. A team could be you and another person, or you and an assistant. I consider that a team. It's smart to have an assistant, especially an assistant who's licensed, who can take some things off your plate. Sure. You may be comfortable with that, but you still have to know how to handle that and hire the right people. Anyway, that's what we're going to cover in the upcoming weeks. We're going to revisit team building. Of course, we already have a great team builder program. We may have some discounts in the future. You'll have to see. And if you're listening and you're interested in team building, go check out our free intro to team building. We re-recorded that just like 2 years ago, a year and a half or so ago. And that's just great tidbits, and I'll be covering some of the things that are in there, but updating it and giving you real examples, because we're in the middle of doing it. Right.
That's all good stuff. Well, all right, everyone. That's a wrap for today's show. Hey, I want to remind everyone, we want to start taking your questions. So if you have a question you'd like us to cover either on the podcast or on our weekly email, if you're a member of our group, go to our website. We have a page on there called Ask Us Anything. Just fill out the form and we'd be more than happy to answer your questions online or here on the podcast. So please go over there and check that out. As we said before, you can find all of our show notes for today and all the other podcasts over at WBNLpodcast.com. This episode was 201. Anything else, Jan O'Brien?
That's it.
Glad to have you on the West Coast. It's just kind of nice to know that you're at the same time zone that I am. At least for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, it only takes me a day to figure out which time zone I'm in. But anyway, West Coast all the way today.
All right, everyone. Well, get up, get out, be forever wandering but not lost, and live the life you frickin' dreamed.
Boom.
Till next week. To the Batcave.